start your project and all of a sudden all the money is gone and you don't even know where it went. Why were these mistakes made? If you have the entire team, the architect, the MEP engineer, the quantity surveyor, who is the person that deals with cost controlling, you can get a real sense of, do I want the 6,000 square foot home? The housing stock in Jamaica just isn't enough. Kingston, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Mandeville, Portmore, where persons are living, there is not enough housing stock. I see a lot of persons who are not professionals. We're saying, oh, Jamaica can handle a tall building. Oh, how is the fire department going to get up there? Jamaica is an earthquake place and those buildings will fall. The fact of the matter is, all of our buildings that we design in Jamaica is designed to the International Building Code. You will not be able to sell your units until you have approval from the electrical inspector. You will not be able to sell your units until you have a practical completion certificate from the architect. Before any certificate is signed, fire have to be right, plumbing have to be right, electrical have to be right, structures have to be right, specifications have to be right. They have to commission each and every one of your systems. So those buildings are monitored to the T, and you don't get your certificates until everything is done.
Hello Throppers, and welcome back to another video podcast episode. And for those visiting for the first time, a special welcome to you. My name is Winthrop Wellington, and I'm the host of On Deck with Throp, where we have meaningful conversations all about Jamaica. And today we have a very, very special guest, and we're sticking in the construction and real estate industry here in Jamaica. And it is my pleasure to welcome Hugo Matthews, the Managing Director of Virtuoso Architects here in Jamaica. Thank you for joining us here today, Hugo.
My pleasure.
Excellent, excellent. And so I do want to get a bit of a background on you, but I want to set the stage and let everybody know that we have worked together in my family's business with you, and we have a very good and strong relationship that we've been developing over the year, professional relationship we've been developing over the last 2 to 3 years, I want to say, something like that. Yeah. But that aside, we'll get to that, I'm sure. We want to get an understanding of Hugo and where Hugo is coming from. And to start with, where were you born and raised?
Okay, that's great. All right, so I am Jamaican born and bred. I was born in Vineyard Town, which is in Kingston. And actually went to school, a prep school, actually in Vineyard Town as well, Mavisville Prep. So, you know, I'm born and bred Kingstonian, and went to Campion College and then on to UTech. So that's my full sort of educational background. So, yes, we've done a bit of traveling, but, I'm always right in Jamaica. That's where I am, and that's where I'm based.
And why architecture?
That is actually quite interesting. I didn't know it was architecture. Funny enough, when I saw a friend of mine recently, maybe about 2 years ago, I saw him at a store just randomly. He was a prep school friend actually, and we never saw each other again after we left prep school. So that's years on, and we just got into a bit of conversation, just a bit of talking, and he asked me the same thing. What you doing now? And I said architecture, and he said to me, "Oh, that is obvious. It was obvious that is my natural progression." The fact is, I used to always love to draw. Always had a bit of a creative mind. My mother used to always wonder why I used to draw in all of my textbooks. And I guess it was a natural progression. However, through high school, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go, whether it's engineering, whether it's science, whether it's doctor, whether it's medicine. I really didn't know. I had no real clue as to what it is that I wanted to do. But I did like to draw. And I always found myself liking to design things. Not necessarily buildings, but I would see something and I would think to myself, that could be better. So I would go ahead and try to design it a little bit better. And I think it was right at the end of sort of fifth form, where I had to sort of make a decision. Now, my mother wanted me to be a doctor because she just wanted all of our kids to be doctors, My sister is a doctor. My brother is a businessman, but I just didn't have that real sense of what it is that I wanted to do. So it was sort of like right at the last minute. I didn't do art anymore. I'd stopped doing art in third form, but I continued with technical drawing. And it was at that point I said, well, you know what, but I like technical drawing. Where can this take me? And at first, my first inclination was to be some sort of product designer. And then somehow, just in a little conversation with my mom, she said, why not architecture? even though she really didn't want me to do architecture, she really wanted me to do medicine. But I just didn't have that love for it. But she saw that I had love for something else. Funny enough, my mother was a fashion designer and she drew a lot. So maybe she saw some sense of that same talent in me that she had. So she had a friend that her husband was from Dubai and he was an engineer in Dubai. Funny enough, he was in Jamaica for some reason. And she just took me to him to say, hey, architecture, engineering, So he had a bunch of these little folders with a lot of drawings in it. I mean, technical drawings of buildings and all kind of things. So I was just going through. In fact, he gave me some of those books, and I just kept on going through them. But these are real buildings that he had worked on. I can't remember his name. So I was just going through it, and I was looking at it. I found it really interesting. Just how that technical drawing transforms into a building. Like I was looking at the columns, and I said, "You draw every single one of these." It almost didn't make sense in a way that every little thing that I was looking at in the building, he had it in a drawing. So I found it interesting, and I think it was right at that point. I said, well, let me try architecture. And, it just went from there.
And you just stuck with it. No, that's awesome. And everybody has their different origin stories of how they became the person they are and how they got to the level they're at in their profession. So it's always interesting for me to hear that, especially I would say at the level of architect and profession that you are. I think it's important to know and note that you kind of went through these steps, because I know there are a lot of people out there, young people who could be watching this, and they have no idea what it takes and what they have to go through in order to achieve that. And so with that, and we're talking off camera a little bit about people wanting to come to Jamaica and create their dream home, and I know that's so many people's dreams. How important is it to have a professional licensed architect on the team to create a home of that nature?
Okay, so I'm somebody that always put forward the entire team. So yes, the architect is important, but I also put forward the entire team of persons, because yes, you have a lot of persons that can draw a floor plan. But the execution of a project is not just in the floor plan. It's really the entire process. And what does that look like? The entire process of doing a building. Yes, you have to be able to draw the spaces and whatnot. And the architect is trained to understand the psychology of spaces and what goes where. That's maybe the simpler part of it. But there's an extreme science in construction. And you will, yes, everybody sort of, if you're on a construction site, you sort of know, oh, well, the steel is this size, the steel goes there. That's the spacing. That's sort of rule of thumbs. But if you really want to design and execute a dream home, I always say, get the persons who have been trained in this field day in, day out. And every single year, we have to continue our professional development. So we have to know what are the new technologies, what are the new ways, what are the new systems, what is the science behind it. So the architect is there to design, but not only to design, but to create those, take you where you want to go in your dream. So we'll design the spaces. The other part of it is we have to know the different materials. We have to know what goes best where, how it is laid, how it is installed. We have to know sequencing of events. We have to know how to create a proper specification document, which is the detailed. It's like a detailed manual of how the building comes together. I love to work with my structural engineers. I love to work with my mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers, because these guys know exactly how to do it. You don't want to turn on one shower and you turn on another pipe and you lose pressure. So there's a lot of little intricate things that goes into designing a dream home. And what I always say is, your dream home is really your forever home. You don't want to be looking at a mistake and say, boy, I could have done this better. You're going to be living in it day in, day out, and you just want to ensure that you get the best. You put the best foot forward, and you execute in the best way possible. And you want to give yourself all of the opportunity to ensure that the product comes out the way you want. Because I've seen it far too many times, and I can give you a ton of real life instances where persons end up spending a lot of money working with a simple draftsman or a builder and end up with something that is not even complete. You start your project and you come down and all of a sudden all the money is gone and you don't even know where it went. Why were these mistakes made? And if you have the entire team, the architect, the engineer, the MEP engineer, the quantity surveyor, who is the person that deals with cost controlling, you can get a real sense of, hey, do I want the 6,000 square foot home or do I want this 3,000 square foot home? Can everything that I want fit into this? And this money that I thought could do it based on the little conversation that I had, really can't do it. So once you have the whole team together, we can put the best possible product forward for you. So I'll always be adamant about getting a professional team.
And when you say, even when you gave the example of working with the structural engineer, the plumbing team, you're working with them throughout the process of the construction of this home?
Yes. So it's a start to finish sort of thing. So I don't just design, I design, get the approvals, facilitate the approvals. And I'm along the ride for the entire construction process. So whenever I sign a deal with a client, I'm marrying them for the time. We are friends for the entire time, family for the entire time, sometimes enemies for the entire time. But at the end of the day, we always execute the project as best as we can, and we always try to ensure that they not only get the dream that they want, but something that they maybe never thought of. So it's the entire period. So myself, the quantity surveyor, structural engineer, MEP engineers, they're there for the entire process, working alongside with the contractor to make sure that everything that we've designed is implemented. And and every site is a little different. So sometimes you've designed something, you go on site and you realize, oh my word, this can't work. This soil is too soft. We have to move this from here to there. You have to make some decisions on the fly. And it's great to have a professional team that can guide you with all the decision making along the entire process.
And what's the MEP engineer?
Okay, so you said it. It is the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Mechanical, okay.
Right. So mechanical is like your AC and AC. Sometimes persons want music to play through them house. Sometimes persons want smart systems. Sometimes persons want what you may call it, like just anything special that runs through us. I have a client right now that wants a game room, and that requires a whole bunch of things that I didn't know about, how the monitors are connected and what goes where and Wi-Fi and all of these wireless systems. So that's where your mechanical engineer comes in. So he's a specialist in those types of systems that have connectivity. Electrical is exactly what it sounds like. They deal with all the electrical systems in the house. If you want to do solar panels, if you want to have a generator backup system, some persons even thinking about wind energy. All of those systems that deal with electricity, coming off grid, maybe going mid grid, maybe just solar grid tie systems. That is your electrical engineer, and he will be the person to design the circuits in the house, the panels in the house, to ensure that nothing is overloaded and you're not making any mistakes. I've been in houses where the panels are all wrong, and we have to get somebody in there to make a lot of changes. When if you had them up front, you wouldn't have to go through that. And then plumbing is definitely as it suggests. It deals with water systems in the house, and there's a lot of different water systems you can have. If you're having a pool in the house, if you have hot tub in the house, if you want to have water harvesting, you want to collect some rainwater, put it in some tank, maybe irrigate your place. That's your plumbing engineer, and he will specify the types of pumps to use, the types of pipes to use. He will tell you what type of pressure you need, and he'll design the system to ensure that when you turn on shower number 1, it doesn't impact shower number 2. When you're using hot water and somebody else turn on hot water, all of a sudden your water gets cold. So that person is a specialist in that field, and they'll design it to ensure that your comfort level is maintained throughout.
And I think to your point you made earlier is, especially for the folks who are watching this, we want to avoid those scenarios as much as humanly possible. And I always encourage people to go with the professionals. And two of the top 2 inquiries of professionals that people reach out to me on my channel is, number 1 is a lawyer, real estate lawyer, and next is contractors. Okay. And because we've all heard those horror stories about having a not so professional lawyer and then also working with my cousin who knows carpentry or knows plumbing, instead of going with a certified engineer who knows all this. And like you said, you end up paying way more, double, our worst case scenario, the project doesn't even be complete. And so I just want to emphasize like the importance of that, of just working with these people, these professional people, paying up front, get the job done right, and you just set it, forget it. You don't got to worry about it.
Yeah. One of the things that I don't remember where I heard this line. It might have just been in construction conversations with colleagues. They say it's always better to change the design 10 times with an eraser than one time with a hammer.
That perfectly said. Perfectly said. Exactly. That's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Hey everyone, Throp here again. I want to take a brief moment to tell you about a development I recently visited in Montego Bay. I'm talking about none other than the Pinnacle. As of today, the superstructure of this project's first residential tower has reached its peak at 28 floors and is currently the tallest building in Jamaica. When completed, the Pinnacle will be home to the tallest residential structure in the entire Caribbean. This project also includes private villas, retail, dining, private boating slips, and a range of leisure facilities. It is designed as a large-scale luxury lifestyle development built to the highest international standards. I have toured the site, met with the leadership team, and reviewed the development alongside regulatory authorities, including the superintendent of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. From what I've seen, the execution of this project is unprecedented in Jamaica. The level of planning and oversight is significant and reflects Jamaica's capacity to deliver at this scale. Projects like this signal a growing confidence in Jamaica's future. If you are interested in owning or investing in Jamaica, this project is worth considering. For more information on the Pinnacle, please scan the QR code on your screen right now or use the link in the description below. Be sure to let them know Throp sent you. Now back to the pod.
Sticking with dream homes here, I am seeing some incredible homes in Jamaica on Instagram that different realtors are selling. And I feel like I want to showcase a lot of them because like I feel like people out there, maybe Jamaicans who are living abroad, don't really understand the quality of some of these homes. And you mentioned some specializations in the game rooms, and even the other day I saw on Instagram there was this home that's for sale. Like there's an elevator inside the home. This is a private home that has an elevator, and so I was seeing if you could share with us some of, I would say, what would I say, some of the more unique features that you've kind of been seeing trending in the building of these dream homes here in Jamaica.
Sure. All right. So the thing is, persons in Jamaica, they've been looking internationally. They've been seeing some of these dream homes abroad, and they want to bring a lot of those things here. So the features that I've been seeing of persons who want interesting ideas coming in, separate and apart from some of your standard systems like solar. I've been seeing EV. It was actually not one house, but it was a apartment townhouse complex where we had to install the point for EV. So persons who want their electric vehicles, you park it and you can plug your vehicle into it. So it's a special port set up for your electric vehicles. Some of the other things we've been seeing, sauna rooms, a lot of persons know. You have these kits that you can purchase, and but you have to set up in a special room. So persons want sauna rooms, so we have to ensure that we design those things well, so that the steam from it doesn't escape and come out to the areas adjacent to it. You mentioned also the elevators. We've been seeing a lot of those, and where we've been seeing it is a lot of returning residents, a lot of retirees who there's a 2-story house. Maybe they have the house on a hillside, where you have to use the levels now to ensure that the home is built most cost effective as possible. So in those level changes, they don't want to climb stairs as they age. So we've been putting in lifts in those spaces. It's not like a regular elevator. It's more like a residential lift. And sometimes it doesn't even look like an elevator. It's just a regular door. You open the door and you step into your lift. It takes you up and down. So it almost disappears in the house. It doesn't look like an elevator unless you want it to.
Right.
We've designed a house recently where the elevator is all opened up, glass all around, and there's fantastic live wall. Like we're doing. We did that one recently where it's a live wall where it's planting on the wall, but it's not fake. It's live.
Oh wow.
Looks fantastic. So those are some real nice special features. And what I would say is maybe the feature that I like the most, which is not even a feature that is mechanical. I'm loving the And you know what? I think it's definitely based in vernacular architecture in Jamaica. So, vernacular architecture, it has a lot to do with the verandas and the overhangs and persons sitting on the verandas and enjoying the external space. A lot of persons these days want to move the veranda from the ground floor to the roof. So we've been doing a lot of roof terraces. So on the roof now you have your barbecue area, you have a trellis where you can get some covering. If the rain is falling, you can still go to the roof. You capture some nice views. The thing is, in Kingston, Jamaica, and all of these places, it's not flat, right? So everywhere you go, the land sort of the level changes quite a bit. Sometimes you don't even realize how much the level changes because the road seems kind of flat. But once you have your house and you're on the third level, ground first and then you're at roof level now, you're at the third level up, you'll be surprised at what you can see. All of a sudden you get these fantastic views and you didn't realize, I can see the harbor from here. I can see downtown from here. I can see all of these buildings from here. Now on the ground you can't see anything, but once you get up to that level, 3 floors up, you're getting these fantastic views. So in my mind, I am loving the rooftop terraces because the things you can do up there is almost infinite. Recently we did one that has a bunch of different little areas on the roof. You have your barbecue area, you have a little seating area, you have a bar area, and you have a TV area. So persons are utilizing the entire space on the footprint of the roof to do fantastic things. And I think those are some of the innovations that I love seeing. Separate and apart from some of the other ones where water harvesting, these are things that persons want to do. Obviously, resources cost a lot. So whatever you can do to cut costs is always fantastic. So you store some water in a cistern or some sort of underground tank, and you can reuse it to water your plants. So those are some of the features that we've been seeing trending lately.
No, it's beautiful. I feel like Jamaica is at a point where essentially if you can think or dream of something that you want inside of your home, you can get it. I'm sure it's been that way a while, but like at least now on social media, you're like anything that you see in the States or in Europe or whatever, you can have in your home, like no question at this point in time. So it's just kind of great to see that evolution, if you will, in these homes. And I guess now I want to move to a little bit more on like the material side of things. And you had made mention about different types of building materials. And are you seeing like any new trends along that side in terms of construction and any innovative ways in doing buildings and homes here?
Okay. All right. Good question. All right. So our standard building material in Jamaica is really concrete steel. What we've been seeing a lot now, and wood. But in the traditional way of utilizing wood, maybe in the rural areas, maybe they use it as the walls. But traditionally, it's really your cabinetry and the areas that you don't see in the rafters in your roof. But we're seeing now trending persons want to use the wood as cladding. They want to express that natural texture on the external parts of their homes. Mind you, sometimes it's not natural wood, and I can tell you why. Even though the wood is treated for termites and whatnot, and it's expected to have a good life expectancy, we do have really, really strong sun and rain, and wood can deteriorate not fairly quickly. But personally, I like the aging wood. But what persons are doing now is you will see a lot of it. It's like an engineered wood.
Yeah.
For instance, I think Trex, the company Trex Decking has some of those where it looks like wood. It's a plastic sort of material, but it has the wood grain and it lasts for a long time. Also, the other material we're seeing is Plysem. Now that has been around for a while, but still not a lot of persons know of it. So it's a cementitious material, and when they make it, you can get a lot of different patterns on it. So sometimes they'll put wood patterns and other different patterns that you want, and you can stain it with the wood stain, and it looks really, really good. Again, that lasts forever. It doesn't absorb water, and it won't deteriorate. Most you have to do to it is maybe stain it again to get back that look.
And is that for like flooring?
No, not flooring. It's walls.
Oh, that's for walls. Still on walls. Okay,
Right,
wow.
it's mostly walls, or sometimes persons will put on ceiling, and they use it for moldings as well. So like your baseboard and your crown molding, they'll use it for those areas. Not on the floor. Not on the floor. What we've been seeing a little bit of a trend in the flooring is, yes, tiles are the go-to, but I shouldn't say trend. It's just sort of picking up. So linoleum, I think you have like a luxury sort of linoleum flooring. So that is easier to install. It looks good. So we're seeing persons are questioning it. Can we use it? So more persons are showing interest in it, and that might be a price thing. But it does have a lot of options and it's easy to install. I think a lot of it has to do with speed of construction as well.
Yeah.
You know, so we're seeing a bit of that come on stream. And the other flooring material that I'm seeing is, now, to be honest, I don't remember the actual name of it, but stone paint. It's sort of like a self-leveling acrylic type of surface that you put it on the floor, and it's seamless. It looks really good. And once you put it down and you seal it, it's almost like there's, you know, it tells you have the lines in it.
Yeah.
Just like one big continuous floor. Looks really good, and that comes in a million different patterns and colors, and a lot of persons are gravitating to that material as well. So quite a bit of new material trends. We've seen a lot of glass coming in. Persons now want that floor to ceiling glass. That can be expensive because, as you know, Jamaica is in the hurricane line. So if you put in glass down, it has to be glass that can withstand 150, 120 mile per hour wind. So you want that. If you're not going to do that, then obviously if you're putting in that sort of floor to ceiling glass, you have to have some sort of protection when the hurricane season comes around. So you whether you're going to do some sort of aluminum drawdown panel on the outside, or you're going to do the traditional ply board on the outside to protect your windows. If you're not using glass that can withstand hurricane pressures, then you have to find some other way to protect the glass. The other thing that we've been seeing a lot of is wall treatment. Now, I'd mentioned plysim before, but you have a lot of these sort of wall treatment that you just put on the wall, and all of a sudden it's a finished look right away. So we've seen a lot of those.
Like, what do you mean by that?
It's like a wall panel, so it comes in maybe 4 foot by 8 feet.
Yeah,
and they have a lot of different patterns. So some of them might look like stone, some might look like timber, some might look like cork, bamboo, wicker. There's just a lot of it, and persons are trying these new materials to see how quick it can transform a space, and you know,
yes,
a lot of them really look good, and they're easy to carry, easy to install. So we're seeing a lot of that. Persons are trying those to basically not necessarily put on every single wall in the house, but they'll do it like for accent walls and accent features. You know, maybe a living room and where your TV is, they put these accent features on the wall. So a lot of that is trending. Recess lights, you know, a lot of those things are trending right now.
Okay. No, that's it's exciting because like I'm seeing a lot of this stuff, especially coming from China, because it's so cheap, and like you said, it transforms a room like very quickly. I was going to point some stuff out here, but the audience can't see. But even like the panels that I have there,
right, exactly.
And then this I got in, I forget the name of the store, Creative Solutions in Kingston, for like this flooring that I did here, and it just transforms a room so quickly. You're not cutting tile and putting down and it's not noisy, or even ripping up tile to put down new tile. So from like a speed of service type situation and disruption, I mean, it's so minimal. So it's exciting that like we're living in this time and have access to these types of materials. You had mentioned the floor to ceiling glass and the concern with hurricanes. And so two things with that. I guess this is a good transition into like the next topic, which is like the very tall buildings that are coming to Jamaica, right? But before we get there, is in your experience, like, is having that safe and having a floor to ceiling window or paneling for your home, as long as it meets that 125 mile per hour, I think you said 150 mile per hour threshold, is that okay? And can people, if like that's the way they want their house designed, they can feel comfortable in that?
Yeah, man, perfectly safe. I'm glad you sort of brought the topic up of tall buildings in Jamaica. Because a lot of times when I'm, scrolling through social media, I see a lot of persons who are not professionals who are saying, Jamaica can't handle a tall building. Oh, how is the fire department going to get up there? Jamaica is an earthquake place and those buildings will fall. I see a lot of the comments about it. But the fact of the matter is, the standards that we have to design our buildings by in Jamaica, and it will not be approved unless the standards are met, has to be met. So all of our buildings that we design in Jamaica is designed to the International Building Code, IFC International Fire Code. All of the things that we design have to be designed to code, and all of the specifications that we do for glass, for doors, for walls, for floors, structure, steel, all of that is international code. So our codes in Jamaica is actually, because we're in an earthquake zone, the structural element of it is sometimes even greater than in some areas. So if you see a tall building go up, I would even say to you, tall buildings might very well be safer than the shorter ones, because there's so much more care that's taken into creating these buildings, because it will not be approved unless it meets each one of those codes. So for instance, glass specifications, we have to ensure that if we're doing glass, it has to meet the code for wind resistance in terms of hurricane areas. And there are various different calculations, and you can do what you want with it, right? So let's say you have the lowest one is 150. The lowest one is maybe the worst hurricane you'll see in 10 years. So the lowest one is something like that. So if we're looking back at Jamaica, Hurricane Gilbert, Gustav, some of these big hurricanes, those are like your minimums. You as the developer may decide to go higher. So we can design lower than what is expected year over year. And funny enough, last year, or it might have been the year before, we had a lot of hurricane activity in the Caribbean. Like it was a lot.
Yeah.
So from that, persons are now saying, listen, even though this is the minimum, I want to go a little higher. And we've done that for all of our buildings since that point. So we might be designing for 120, we're at 150, and some we consider now maybe we should go for 200. But those things are met. Yes, it increases the cost of the development, but at the end of the day, what is the cost to you if it fails?
Right.
So so you might be paying a bit more for your building, but it's a lot safer. It's a lot safer. If I want to speak a lot about fire safety as well. A building will never be approved. A tall building in Jamaica will never be approved. Fire department is one of the hardest approvals to get. We go back and forth to fire departments so many times just to get it approved. Or your escape route is not right. The door I remember getting not rejection, but had to not redo a design, but change a design because my door was 2 inches too narrow. 2 inches. Fire department would not release my drawing because my door. I'll go to them and say, hey, listen, the specification says that the door is 3'8", which is the minimum. Sorry, not the door, which is the minimum. But I had to show it on my drawing that it's actually the height, the width. Sorry. So fire department is the hardest thing. You have to have your fire hose reels. You have to have your fire department connection points. You have to have ensure that all of the escape routes are right. You have to ensure that the sprinkler system is correct, and they check it meticulously. It will not be approved until everything is checked. So I will tell you that safety requirements are met in Jamaica, And what the other thing that is happening, or it's going to be a new procedure, which I've done for the last 3 buildings, is what they call the occupancy check. So even after you get your approval and you build your building, the fire department comes and checks it, and you don't get your occupancy certificate until it meets. Sometimes, as I mentioned before, things happen on site that cause the building to change a little bit here and there. So it's one of the reasons why the fire department will come back and take a look to say, all right, I understand that the door couldn't be here because this rock was just immovable, so you put it over here. But ensure that this happens before it can be released. So fire department check, engineer check, material check, MEP checks. Your building will not be approved either until it gets a certificate from the electrical inspector. You will not be able to sell your units until you have approval from the electrical inspector. You will not be able to sell your units until you have a practical completion certificate from the architect. So before any certificate is signed, all of those checks have to happen. Fire have to be right, plumbing have to be right, electrical have to be right, structures have to be right, specifications have to be right. They have to commission each and every one of your systems. If you have an elevator, it has to be commissioned, and we have to get those reports. So those buildings are monitored to the T, and you don't get your certificates until everything is done. Mind you, things might slip out here and there. Maybe you miss one pipe or whatever, but 99.9% of it is checked before it's released, before you can sell, and persons are protected under the law.
So it's a very, very rigorous process.
Extremely rigorous.
And it seems like these agencies are looking out for safety of the occupants more than anything else.
Yes, that is it. The end user is who they're trying to protect and who we are trying to ensure gets the best use from the buildings that they invest in, because it's a big investment. I mean, a lot of persons, it's their life savings, you know, and it's a solid investment. I want to ensure that at the end of the day, you get what you dreamed about.
Yeah, and I'm for it. You know, I'm sure it's very annoying for some of these steps, but to me, it's like I would never want Jamaica to be in a situation where a prominent project or a prominent building, something very bad happens, let's just say, and because a step was skipped or because somebody wanted to cut this corner. No, I think it's important that we take great pride in this process and that we encourage it, even if it is to widen the door 2 inches.
Exactly.
Right? So be it. Kind of moving to like the practical aspect of it and going back to the example that I opened up with, and you hit it on the head. People are scared of the earthquake and these tall buildings. But to me, Jamaica is in overall, we don't have enough housing in Jamaica for the population that we have, and we're going to need to go up. You know, especially in certain areas, we're going to need to go up, and you're starting to see that, and you're starting to see taller and taller buildings. I remember this was like 4 years ago. There was an announcement of, I forget the name of the building in Kingston, but it was like some 20-something story building in Kingston that was going up, and it was the record for Jamaica. And I was like, there's going to be another group that's going to come that's going to beat that record, and is going to go higher. And there's going to be another group that's going to come and beat that record. And that's exactly what's been happening recently. And to your point about the comments on social media about people saying like, oh no, the earthquakes, Jamaica can't handle it, we're in an earthquake zone, or what's going to happen if a hurricane comes and I'm on the 20th floor. Can you speak to, and the reason like I'm even bringing this up confidently, because I went to there's a development in Montego Bay that's going very high development, and I was privileged enough to see like how they were putting together I don't know if it's the pillars or whatever have you, but the steel was so thick. I've never seen steel this thick before in my life. And you know, it was all being put together so they can handle earthquakes, so they can handle the hurricanes. And so if you can kind of speak to it, even as technical as you want to go, so people can really understand like how this stuff actually works.
Okay, so once the developer comes and say, listen, I want to put a 28-story building down, you know, we'll design the building that they want. But the very next step now is once buildings start to get complicated like that, the more you stack services on top of services on top of services, the higher you go, is the more safety requirements and more services the building needs. We have to start to look at, all right, you're going all the way up there, how we get water up there, number one. That's the first thing. How does a person on the top floor gets water? NWC, which is National Water Commission, will only give you up to 3 floors. They'll guarantee you water to 3 floors.
In terms of the pressure that they provide.
Pressure,
I gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
They can only give you 3 floors. And that's what they say, listen, this is how we can guarantee. Mind you might get some good pressure, you go up to 6 floors or something. But the guarantee is 3. So if you're going higher than that, you need systems in place to figure out how we're going to get up there. That's the first thing. And once you start to make those decisions, we start to say, all right, how do we do it? How do we get the pressure? Is it 1 pump? Is it 2 pumps? Is it 1 tank? Is it 2 tanks? And there are calculations that determine how much water is needed. So one of the calculations is, I'll just skip past a lot of these technical things sometimes, but it's 60 gallons per person per day. You know, so if it's, you might say, I don't use 60 gallons of water. I'm almost confident I don't use 60 gallons of water. And you start to sort of check, do I use 60 gallons of water? I don't know, maybe not, but we have to calculate in excess. What is the worst case scenario? So the calculations are actually worst case scenarios. What if every single person in this building turn on the pipe at the same time? So it's the worst case scenario. Yes, you have some relaxation that they'll give you. It's like, all right, maybe we can do like a 75% variance on this thing. So all of those things are sort of taken into consideration. What's the likelihood that that might happen? So the first thing you do is you set the sizes of the things that you need. The other thing is when the electrical engineer comes in, he'll say, all right, what do we think persons will be using inside of these units based on what is happening now? Persons are on their computers, they're watching TV, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more. People will find that persons don't really like to go outside and hang up anything on the line anymore. So maybe everybody have a dryer. Maybe everybody has air fryer. So they will take all of these things. And what we do is we create sort of like a specification or a sort of guide to say these are the things that we expect inside of each one of these apartments. And then they'll create what the load requirements are. And then from that, they'll know how much space do I need for wires and raceways and electrical raceways. The other thing that we look at sometimes, well, in big buildings like this, you look at generator, backup generation. And what does that look like? So it can come in two ways. You can either back up the entire building, which is you can back up the individual apartment, or you can back up the common areas alone. So if you're backing up common areas alone, the generator required is less. But if you decide, hey, listen, I want to back up the whole entire thing, you figure out now, do we do it right off the top, or do we set it in a way that persons can come in and buy into a system later? So all of those things are thought. So what we did in one of our projects is we said, all right, cool, we're going to back up the whole entire building, but persons will have to purchase, the end user will have to purchase their own transfer switches. So the generators are there, it can back up the whole system. And then when you come in now, you say, all right, you know what, I don't really want, if light gone, and I'll just come back up when it comes up. But other person can say, well, I want to be up and running all the time because, this is my work. So they'll purchase a transfer switch that kicks in as soon as power goes out, if power goes out. Hopefully we get to a stage one day in Jamaica where power doesn't go out so often. So that will kick in and the generation will come in. But all of those things are calculated to the specifications of what the developer wants or what we're thinking. The next big ticket item here now is, you mentioned it, structures. You're going 20 floors up, 28 floors up. What does the foundation look like? So when you're doing buildings as tall as those and as heavy as those, we want to know what we're putting it on. So yes, we're putting it on the ground, but what does the ground look like? Can the ground actually manage it? So we do what is called your borehole testing. You do your soil test. You do your percolation test. When rainfall, does the water run off? Because you don't want to flood anybody out again. So before any construction happens, we do a percolation test, which is you drill holes in the ground, you take cores out, and you see what the drainage could be. Similarly, with your bearing capacity, you drill holes in the ground. Right now, I've forgotten how deep, but I think it might be 30 feet deep in some scenarios, maybe 10 feet deep in some scenarios. I guess it depends on the geology of the area. But the engineer will make those determinations, and it's two different engineers. So we have our structural engineer, and then the structural engineer will require a geotechnical. So that is really testing the soil. And then you have your geotechnical engineer. So the geotechnical engineer will do his tests, and he will come out with a report that goes to the engineer and says, listen, the ground is not so stable, it ain't so great, I am recommending this set of foundations. So it's two structural engineers in a sense working together to ensure that what we want to do is actually workable. And once all of that is done, then the foundations are designed. I have been. And
sorry, are those two professions, like, are they found here in Jamaica?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of those professions are found here in Jamaica. So we have geotechnical engineers in Jamaica, and we have structural engineers.
So we don't need to go abroad. We right here, home.
Right here, you don't need to go abroad.
Awesome.
All of these guys are here. We're some of the best engineers in the entire Caribbean. A lot of engineers have worked right across the Caribbean. So we have all of those guys here, ready to go. So what I would say is, in terms of just understanding the complexity of a tall structure, is not just stacking units on top of, stacking floors on top. Every time you stack, something else changes. So what the system that you would normally use for a single story or a two-story is not the same system you're going to use in a 28-story. And all of those things are calculated to ensure that the building works well, not just now, but as long as the building will stand, and that persons are comfortable within the space.
Okay, and so let's do like a practical example.
Sure.
You're on the 28th floor of this building, you're in the penthouse, and a Category 2 hurricane is coming through. What will that experience be like for you?
All right, so a hurricane is a hurricane, so that's always, just the idea of something coming will give persons anxiety.
Yes.
But if you're on the 28th level of a tall building, you know that you're going to be in that wind load. So you want to understand, in a sense, what is your expectation. Now, a lot of the structural engineers will design the building to sway. The fact of the matter is, at the highest point of the building, it's going to sway more than at the lowest point of the building, because it's the lightest.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, it's the heaviest. And sort of that's how the structure goes up as well. The heaviest structures are at the base, because that's a hold up all of that weight above. And the structures on top are a little bit lighter. So they'll design the building to sway, because it really and truly, and I'll probably, when you interview an engineer, they can give you the actual intricacies behind it. But when the building sways, it sort of moves with the force, so you're not trying to resist the whole thing. It can cause more cracks. So there are different ways that the engineers will design those structures to move within the wind, to ensure that the building works best with the prevailing winds. We have to look at glass. So I'd mentioned before that you have your glass that can withstand 120 mile per hour winds, 150 mile per hour winds. So you can understand that, and also some projectiles as well. So that glass, which is usually some sort of laminated glass, means it can protect yourself from projectiles, and it won't implode like that. So you can expect that, yes, you'll see the hurricane going, but if as long as the glass is set up the way that it ought to, then you are perfectly safe. In Jamaica, I can tell you, in America, you'll normally see a building that's glass 100% all the way around. In Jamaica, we tend to sort of mix it. So you have concrete on some sides, glass on the other side. So we try to strategically do that. So we'll put some structural elements on one side, which is likely concrete, less holes in the build in it. So that makes the building a little stiffer. And then on the other side, where you have the glass, because you're trying to capture views, but at the same time, where the columns will come up will offer the amount of structure and support that you want in those areas. So the engineers will always design to ensure that you are okay in those type of scenarios.
Okay, good. I just wanted to, make sure we emphasize that point, because it's a fear that I understand, but at the same time, we're living in a new age, and you go all around the world, and there are buildings that are much taller that they do have and have gone through these, once in a lifetime events with the weather, and they've survived and they're okay.
Yeah. The other thing I would love to jump on just a little bit, which is again safety in the building, is the way the buildings are designed is we have to ensure that persons have escape routes. So every new building in Jamaica, I can't speak to the old ones, has to have multiple escape routes. So you have your main stair and you have your escape stair. And if the building is long, then you may need an additional stair or 2 or 3 or 4, because there are specific dimensions between your escape routes. I will not call a number because I can't remember exactly what the number is, but I can just jump in the book and in the standards and see what those dimensions are. So in the event that you have to make a swift escape, elevators always shut down. So the elevators that we install in the event of a disaster, the elevator shut down. You have to use the stairs. The other thing is we always try to ensure that at least one of those stairs or the fire escape stair is pressurized. What that means is, let's say there's a fire in the building, and part of the fire that is very dangerous is the smoke. You don't want the smoke to infiltrate the escape route, so the escape stairs are pressurized. Pretty much every single tall building you see in Jamaica right now, starting from 2015 and probably even before, those stairs are pressurized.
And what do you mean by pressurized?
It means that we pump air into the space.
Okay.
So that when the door is open for persons to go into the escape space, the smoke doesn't follow them.
Okay.
The air pushes the smoke out. Okay. And then and it's very smart. It's a smart system, because the fact of the matter is, if the space is so pressurized and let's say the door opens in, if it's so pressurized, sometimes you can't open the door because the pressure is too tough. So you have I forget the terminology, but you have these vents that caps off. So if it gets too high, it caps off and it releases some of the pressure. Let's call it a pressure release valve. That sounds almost right to me, but so those escape routes are designed to international standard for proper evacuation of tall structures.
Okay. No, good to know. Good to know. Safety is everything when it comes to just construction in general, but definitely these taller buildings. And I guess in general, like, how do you feel about like these not necessarily just the tall ones, but like just this new age, this new era that Jamaica is finding itself moving into? And I've been here at this point 19 years, almost 20 years, and I've never seen the amount of investment in infrastructure, in residential developments, in hotel developments, and then even the type of design is just beautiful. And you're seeing these things that you would think you would be seeing in places like Miami or New York, but they're here on our doorstep in Jamaica. So just in general, like, how do you feel about this? I feel like you're in a industry that is, in many ways, in many regards, you're kind of leading this, and I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Okay, that is an interesting conversation, and it's an interesting topic because it has been causing a lot of stir of late. So from the first building that I did, the first tall building that I did when I started the company, 20 South, the conversation really started from then. Persons are saying, "Oh wow, tall buildings in Jamaica now. Let me just put this out there. I am for it. I am an architect that is for densification. I've been doing some research, and I've been looking at, and you had mentioned it sort of at the top of this conversation. The housing stock in Jamaica just isn't enough for the amount of persons. And if you look at the urban areas, Kingston, Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Mandeville, the urban areas where persons are gravitating for work, Portmore, which is now in the conversation as a proper urban area, and the conversations around that, where persons are living, there is not enough housing stock. Now, as I mentioned before, I am someone that is for densification. I just think it's better for economies of scale. I just think the economies of scale, when you're talking about putting more persons, and I've done some research on it, and I've also had a few talks and sat on some panels and push the idea of densification and the importance of it, and how it can benefit not just the individual, but even the city in general. There's a lot of research, and there's a lot of ideas and real statistics that show that densification is good, and I am certainly for it. So taller buildings, I'm for it. Now, where the conversation veers a little bit, and it's where you get some of the controversy. And to be honest with you, I'm not against the reasons why the controversy is raised, and it has a lot to do with planning. Where are we putting the denser structures? Are we putting it in those old neighborhoods that has always been single family houses? So in Jamaica, in Kingston, let me speak about Kingston. In Kingston, a lot of the neighborhoods, the Havendales, the Meadowbrook, the Cherry Garden, Vineyard Town, is single family style bungalows. That's what it is historically, from 60s coming right up. It's just what it is. And persons who still live there, they don't want to see the fabric of their neighborhood changed. But the fact of the matter is the fabric of the urban areas has changed. You have a lot of persons from the rural areas, and I'm not going to speak on how many persons are getting into farming and whatnot. I don't know those numbers. What I do know is that if you look at the statistics, more and more persons are coming into urban areas for work. That is what the statistics say. And there's not enough housing stock to facilitate that. So where there's a half side of somebody's house that they build on a little thing, you can get a little flat. That's what persons are working with. So we're not seeing good housing for the young professional who just want something nice, So I am for densification. I am for those taller buildings. I am for economies of scale and the benefits of that. I think the biggest controversy is where are we putting them. Now, the development order has sort of set up a guideline as to where the densification ought to happen. Yes, there's some pushback here and there, and here and there. But I think it's still a conversation that we all need to have, and maybe the greater conversation needs to be, all right, let us do a proper master plan to say, in this area, in this belt, let's say downtown from the waterfront, come up, maybe all of these buildings can be 20, 30, 40 stories. maybe when it comes up into the halfway tree area, maybe those areas now, which is still urban dense areas and transportation and persons need to be able to get home quickly and those things. Maybe those areas which gets closer to the suburbs, maybe those areas are 20 stories, and maybe you come up some more in maybe the Havendales and the Meadowbrooks, and you say, well, maybe we can do some 6-story buildings here. But I think the conversation really is persons who have lived in the bungalows all their lives, they're not comfortable with a building you're shooting up right beside them that is 10 stories. And as I say, I understand those conversations. The fact of the matter is, the housing stock in Kingston just does not support the amount of persons that are here, and that's the main reason for the push. The other thing is, infrastructure just needs to get better. Kingston just needs to have better infrastructure. So when you put these 10-story buildings and 20 and 30 and all the things that we're talking about, the infrastructure needs to match it. It needs to follow. So in my mind, I always thought to myself, how come the densities were increased before the infrastructure was increased? Now, I don't know the answer to that. But were we to wait on the infrastructure and then put in the thing? If we did that, maybe it would never be increased. So what I'm seeing is a lot of sort of public-private sort of partnerships in a way, where they say, well, if you're putting up this building, improve the sewage line from here to there. And I've been seeing a lot of, even my developments, where we are having to work with NWC and other agencies to improve the infrastructure in the line that we're at. So if we put, let's say there's a main line on Barbican Road, and I'm doing something, down the road. They say, well, can you improve the line from where you are to get to the main line? And those are some of the conversations that have been happening. And I think with more public-private partnerships and just a real sense of developing or creating a proper master plan to see how this thing can really roll out. I think that's where the conversation needs to go. But I am 100% for densification. I am 100% for tall buildings, and that's something that my firm has specialized in probably from the beginning. And I think, but I do understand the pushback in areas, and it's not lost on me. So I just have to be sensitive with how we do our designs and how we implement them over the next few years.
So with that, you mentioned the infrastructure, and you're talking more about the sewage and NWC. But what about the traffic? I really love Kingston. I love the community that is in Kingston that you have access to. I wish we had more of that here in the Grill. But the one thing I hate about Kingston is that god awful traffic. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. What's the plan for that? Like, what is the ideal situation to alleviate that? Will that ever be alleviated? Because like you said, we need more housing, and with more housing and more dense housing is going to be more people in apartments that need to traverse to work, to school, to do groceries, running around, more people on the road. And it's going to increase the bottleneck that is already at a fever pitch at this point in time. So what are some possible solutions to that?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. And that is a much, much wider conversation. The thing is, economies of scale and the research that I've been doing over the past couple of years, it suggests that if persons live closer to where they work, then the commute reduces. So part of the putting persons in a tall building is to get them closer to where they work. So maybe you don't drive your car. But if you're looking at it, Kingston persons are driving from Portmore, from Caymanas, from as far as Mandeville, coming into Kingston for work. But what if the housing was there, and what if persons were close to where they live close to where they work? Then the research suggests that is part of the reduction in transport. I've been doing research on the amount of energy that is lost in just standstill traffic.
Not only energy, but like time and, commerce and, the opportunity to make money and create opportunities for yourself and for your family. And you're just wasting away. But yeah, I'm sorry.
No. I'm with it.
Yeah.
You are. And when we look at those numbers, it's astronomical. So part of it is public transportation has to get better. So whether it's the bus system, we don't have a subway system in Jamaica. So either the bus system has to get better, Well, it has to in order for this thing to work. So that is one of the ways. The other thing you maybe want to look at decentralizing a little bit, which is sort of counter to what I've said before, where I think we have to dense. But I think what we have to look at, and I don't think it's so far fetched in my mind, is to sort of decentralize where things are. You sort of spread a little wider to ensure that a business can move from in the center here to over here, and it's a bit closer to where the housing is, and then it's easier to traverse. So if you decentralize and everybody's not coming into Half a Tree, coming into Kingston, those nodes are freed up. But as I say, it's a wider conversation. This is the ultra bit of master planning. This is where Urban Development Corporation comes in. Let us look at the entire map of Kingston. Let us look at if Kingston can actually spread. Because maybe Kingston should spread all the way to Portmore. I don't know. But we have to look at how to do this master plan in a sense, in a way that makes perfect sense. And that is the only way I think that the traffic will go down. I think Colombia, I think, had done some amount of work in, I don't remember where, but there was a presentation in Jamaica a couple of years ago where they were showing what they had done to improve their metro system and the work that they did in order to make transportation better. The fact of the matter is we have a train station, but we don't have a railway system. We have the buses, but it's not the best. So our public transportation, if that improves, and persons can decide to, hey, I don't have to drive to work. Maybe I can park right here and just walk. If those areas improve, then we can look at alleviating traffic. But I think that's far off, to be honest with you.
But I mean, you bring up the example of Colombia, but I believe it was in Medellin. And I was there last year. And the thing that I noticed is, and then I researched it when I came back, is they designed it to be super walkable. And one of the main things was trees. And they had like trees everywhere. Even though it was a hot city, everybody's walking. Everybody is walking to and from where they need to go. They're walking to work, walking home, and it's comfortable. They have very wide, super wide sidewalks, as a matter of fact, come to think of it. And it's a very pedestrian friendly city. And it kind of just became, my observation is just kind of part of the culture that you walk around. And I thought that was beautiful. And I think that that's something that we can implement here. I don't know if we probably don't have the ability to widen our sidewalks, but definitely to put more trees there. And they design it as such. It's funny that you brought that up.
No, I'm for that because we've had that discussion. In fact, I should have mentioned it because part of that presentation that I was a part of was talking about walkable streets. And you know what? Jamaicans do it all the time. And I think if we're being honest about just open and honest conversation here, a lot of persons don't really want to walk on the Jamaican streets because they think it's dangerous. So they prefer to take a taxi or take their own personal vehicle. It's going to be hard to surgically remove somebody from their car and put them on the road and say, hey, it's safe to walk because they just don't really trust what's happening around them. So I think, as I said, that's why I think it's a broad conversation.
Yeah.
I am for the wide streets. I mean, sometimes you're walking on sidewalks in Jamaica and there's a light pole right in it. The sidewalk is 2.5 feet and the light pole is a foot and a half. You can't go around it, you have to step out in the road. We don't have enough trees, and that is true. So I am 100% on board of really walkable areas because whenever we as Jamaicans travel to other cities, we're walking.
Yeah.
We're walking for an hour, we're walking for 2 hours sometimes, and you don't even notice it because it's a comfortable walk.
Right.
So, we need to widen the sidewalks. We need to implement some one ways and take up half of the street in some areas and just let all of that be walkable areas. If you look at Half a Tree in Kingston, there's a lot of persons traversing Half a Tree. The sidewalks in Half a Tree are not big enough. Persons are walking in the road. They're not comfortable. It's not barrier free. It has a lot of.
And it's so hot.
And it's very hot.
There's no shade.
There's
no
right.
shade. Yeah. But people still do it. You're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
But people still do it. So
Yeah.
we do it abroad. We do it here in Jamaica. It's just that I think, as I say, it's a wider conversation. People have to feel safe. And we just have to, architecture-wise, we can design it. We can design the wide sidewalks and we can plant the trees. We just need it to be maintained and persons to feel comfortable enough that, yes, I can walk it. But I'm going to expand this a little bit. Now, there's a place that I used to go to. I have a friend close to Vineyard Town where I go. And we used to go to a little bar and have a little drink at Gilchrist Street, Rallington Town, I think. I might be off with the name. It might be Rallington Town. But at night, the place comes alive. Everybody walking up and down. Everybody feels safe in that community, you know. And I mean, we're there from 8 o'clock at night and we're there till 12 o'clock, everybody walking up and down. And it's wonderful. So in my mind, if a little community like that can do it, it must be possible some way, somehow, to expand what happens in those. And I'm sure it doesn't happen in that community alone. I'm sure it happens in other little communities where persons are walking up and down. It's just that once you get to an area that is not really one community or the other, where somebody might see somebody that they don't know at all, why is it in those areas you no longer feel safe? So it's just trying to maybe take whatever works there and bring it up. I don't know if it's possible, but it's just being there in Jamaica, walking up and down 12 o'clock and feeling safe. Why is it that can't happen all over, you know? So I think it's a wider conversation that it's beyond architecture at this point, but I think it's something maybe more the mindset of people, and maybe just getting them to campaign for a safer and more calm society. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I think that's a good, fair point. Because even when I was in Colombia, like Colombia is like notoriously dangerous.
Yes.
And even when I was taking taxi cabs, I had to roll my window up because they were like, a bike guy will come and take your phone out your hand kind of thing. But I walked everywhere, even in the middle of the night. I was just like, yeah, if something happens, you know. Maybe not the smartest thing, but there was no point I felt, my life was being threatened or my safety was being threatened in any way. And, but, I think that's a fair concern for people, especially if you're living in a neighborhood or community, is like safety is going to be number one.
Yeah.
But, I'd also like to think the way that Jamaica is moving, especially with JCF and a lot of their public successes that they've had in fighting crime and a murder rate going down precipitously year over year, I think we're moving in the right direction. But you're right, though, like that psychological factor is number one. Then there is the design aspect of it, because if you have the wide sidewalks and beautiful trees, but nobody's going to use it, what's the point? Yeah.
They'll use it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know. But good point. I saw something that came out on social media. It might have been this morning. 40% down in crime. So maybe we are moving in the right direction, and maybe this is the starting point. So
yeah. I'd like to believe so. I guess in architecture, but in real estate in general, I know you're based out east in Kingston, and you had mentioned the need for the housing and the increase in density for especially young professionals to move into a standard of acceptability into some of these new places. How is the affordability of that? That conversation comes up a lot. And are those, let's say, the new construction that's happening there, are they the wannabe clients, let's say, are they able to afford these places? Okay.
All right. So good question. All right. Each developer, well, a lot of these developments are private. Private developments, and it's what that developer wants. Now, I will say that a lot of the developments are expensive. The cost per square foot to construct and all those things are expensive. It's what the developer wants. They want to put a particular product forward. And for the most part, maybe that product exceeds maybe the very young professional, but it falls right in the 45, 50 age group, persons who have been working for a while and they can afford those. The fact of the matter is, because it's private developer, they choose what price point they want, and they choose how luxurious they want to make their product. Now, the good thing is that I think that trend really was between 2015 to about the end of COVID. Okay. Where we're seeing a lot of high-end luxury type of things that person wanted. You do one and I say, I want to make one better. And the competition starts. You did 6-foot windows, I want to do 8-foot windows. Well, obviously, every time you make a decision like that, it gets more and more expensive. Now, I have been seeing a trend within the last 2 years where developers they're looking to put it down a little bit, just a little bit less of a high-end finish. and a lot of persons are going into China, and the products are actually quite nice. I mean, yes, persons. The conversation behind China a lot of times is that the products aren't great. But if you go to the shows and you see what the products are, they're getting it for a good price. And I think I just want to jump back to COVID a little bit. Prices skyrocketed in COVID. Shipping costs went up 3-4 times, and that affected selling price. So a lot of the product coming right after COVID was really expensive. But the prices have been pushing back, and persons now, which I've been seeing, they're dialing it back a little bit. I think, and I'm working on 2 projects now that the price points are going to be fantastic. I'm not talking about buildings in low income areas. I'm talking about buildings in middle income and upper mid spec areas with good price points. Very good price points that a young professional will be able to tap into. And I believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be seeing more and more of those products. Persons have we're getting this thing down to a science. We're talking to the suppliers directly. We're trying to get really good product out of the different suppliers, and modular systems that can come and assemble it quickly. We spoke about trying to, if it's not tile, what is it then? Tiling in Jamaica, the cost to pay just the tile alone to do your tiling work is probably about $250 per square foot to lay tile. That don't include material. And if you have a 6,000 square foot house, you can do the maths. So the cost goes up very quickly, painters and those things. So we're looking at different materials to finish a project quickly. So where the overheads go down, using materials that are a little bit more affordable, and it installs quicker. So persons are able to get in and out a little bit quicker. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be seeing a lot of product that are going to fall into that 35, 40 million. Obviously, with fluctuation and escalation, we're going to see those. But if we're talking about right now, where I believe we're going to see price 35 million in maybe for a nice small 2-bedroom unit, which I think is great. And if you're talking about even lower end or even more affordable, you might be seeing things in the $30 million range, 30, 31, 32. I think you're going to be seeing those. So I think young professionals will be able to tap into those markets. So you're not looking at the $75 million because you're looking at 2 bedrooms, you're looking at 90 million, 75 million. Those are really upper echelon type prices. And, you have to just call a spade a spade. But we're looking at persons who are doing, all right, instead of making it a 1,200 square foot 1 bedroom, let us dial it down. Let's come to a 800 square foot 2 bedroom unit it's really fantastic spaces. You get really great finishes. You get something like that. You can get your own indoor laundry. You don't have to be shared laundry. And very, very comfortable. If you want to retire for the whole day and go outside, you have that. And developers are actually looking at giving persons a little bit more as well. Maybe a nice lounge area outside. If it's not, I've seen one of my developers say, listen, we're not going to do a pool because pool add to the monthly expense. So instead of that, let's do a nice barbecue area instead. So they are now working to bring the price down to ensure that the construction can go a little bit quicker and they can sell quicker. So I would say right now you're seeing more of the higher end type units, but it's trending to that middle, upper mid spec that can be fall right into that 30 to 40 million young professional market. And I think that is where the trend is going to end up going for the next couple of years at least. Yes, you'll still get the ultra luxurious ones that that will never stop. And the other thing that I'm seeing now is some persons really want more townhouse type developments. They want to have the yard space around. They don't necessarily want to just be in an apartment. So we're seeing that trend right now. Townhouses they tend to be more expensive, obviously, because they're usually bigger. So those are a bit more expensive, and maybe those are, more the persons who are not necessarily young professionals but have been there for a while, or persons who want to downsize, returning residents. They like those. So that's where I think the trend is going right now.
No, that's beautiful to hear, and I think that's very, very important. That the developers are thinking like that, because it's a real problem, and we don't want, especially our young people, to feel disenfranchised, or if they feel they can't afford to live in their own country, and they take their skills and they go abroad and they help build other countries instead of their own. So that's good to hear, and kind of moving a little bit down that scale into more affordable housing. that is also quite a challenge that Jamaica is facing.
Yeah.
And really getting, I would say, under that 20 million, maybe even down to the $15 million region of affordability. And you hear that a lot, especially when it relates to people using their NHT, like using their NHT loan and you know, combining with their partner or whoever it is to put those benefits in order to afford a home like that. But one of the things that I think people don't understand, and I'm not trying to put anybody down, is that the cost of construction is so high. And it is, I feel that developers will have to, especially for affordable housing, will need to get a little bit more creative in developing these homes that are a little bit more affordable, that are in the 20 million and below. And so I guess my question is like, you know, is how do we solve this problem in a meaningful way? And I know the government is doing a lot, and you see the Prime Minister giving away a lot of houses and doing these ribbon cutting ceremonies, but we need to do it at scale. And I feel like we're not doing it at the rate that the market is demanding.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, yes, the government is doing it, but to get prices down there has to be, I don't think it can be a one-off because, you know, in order to capitalize on material and those things, you have to buy it in bulk.
Right.
You know, so it will never, I don't think it will be these one-off the houses. Like if you're doing a one house, I don't think you'll really get there. But if you're doing like a housing development, it's possible. And you just have to get really creative with the material that you use. Hardware and Lumber recently, they had released that they're in fact, I went and looked at it. They're doing a house. You can get I think it's the 1-bedroom type 1 for 4.2 million finished. The step up, I think the 2-bedroom is 4.9, and I think the 3-bedroom was like 8.9 or something like that. Don't hold me to those numbers, but those are finished houses. But it's just a house.
Okay.
Right, so you have to have your own land. So you'd have to buy the land, and then you'd have to also pay the laborers to put it up. But the material cost of it, I mean, the fact of the matter is 4.9. If you buy it, I mean, that's fantastic.
That's amazing.
You know, it's fantastic. I went and looked, and the finishes are really, really good. So it's just getting creative with the materials that you're using to develop these houses. Now, one of the things that I was looking at recently was the foam. So I had gone to Panama and I'd gone to a factory to look at foam panels. So I went to the factory, I saw how they did it, and I went to their housing development that they did. To be honest, you can't tell that it's foam. It's foam panels, and you put concrete on either side, and you know that's supposed to bring your cost down by maybe 30% material cost, but it brings down the time as well, because the foam panels, you one man can walk with a foam panel, you know, and just put it down. You put one foam panel, and you have the height of your building. So we have to look at materials, because Jamaica and Jamaicans love block and steel. So block work, your regular 8-inch by 6-inch by 16-inch block. That's what we like. That's what we use. It takes some time to build the mortar is a cost, and you have a lot of wastage when you have those type of products. So we have to look at modular systems where the wastage is down and you're speeding up the timeline. The fact of the matter is, if you can build a house in 8 months, over building a house for a year, you're saving 30% in just overheads. So it is looking at different material systems that can bring the price down, and Jamaicans would have to buy into. This is not a block wall, this is a foam wall. You touch it feel like concrete, but you have to buy into. This is a type of product that you can get for this type of cost. The product that I saw recently, it's actually not foam and it's not block. It's actually it's like a thick plycem board. So it's these panels that are made. It is a cement panel that are made, and you just put them down and you stick them together and you laminate them, and that gives you your wall. So when you look at products like those, it makes the building go up quicker. It's a lot less wasted, because you're not buying a whole heap of cement and put mortar, and when you flash it, you lose 30% of the material. And when you install the electrics in there, it's very quick as well. So if persons buy into the new methodology and the new materials that will be making these houses, they're strong. They are monolithic, which means that the whole building is like one form. It's not like you put it together like a Lego set, where the roof is different from the wall. with the foam panels, the steel goes up from wall into the roof, and it's one monolithic build. So it's very strong against hurricanes. Even if you crash a car into it, it stands up strong like a concrete building. But these systems are quick. They're cheaper to produce. You can produce it very quickly. You can ship it very quickly because it's light. So once persons buy into these type of systems and the new construction methodology, then we'll see prices of houses coming on. But if you're using a traditional block and steel, you're just not going to get a traditional block and steel house for 4.9 million. You're just not going to get it. It just won't work. Persons have to buy into, hey, listen, this is really a foam wall, or this is really a cement board wall, or this is a tilt-up wall. But persons have to buy into a new method of construction.
What do you think about these container homes and these capsule homes that I just saw the first capsule home in Jamaica a few weeks ago. But what do you think of those as a form of a solution?
I have not myself gotten a chance to really walk into it. I've seen it online. I've seen it, the videos of it. I've seen the finishes. It looks fantastic. It looks great. It could very well be a solution. You ship those in, you put it down, and you're good. Somebody said something, because I had a conversation on this recently with another colleague of mine, and he raised a point to me that I didn't know. And what he said is, it's going to be difficult to, I guess it would have to change the laws or something, but he says those container homes, because you can just pick it up and move it, it's going to be hard to get like your light, your GPS, those things, because when you place it, it's not a permanent structure. Now, maybe I need to do a little bit more research on it, but he is right. You take a container home, you put it on 4 stilts, you connect your pipe into the sewage, and you connect your light. What if one day you just decide to bring a 40-foot container truck and stick it up and put it on it and roll away? How legally now, how does that work? I don't know. I don't know how it works on a legal standpoint, on a legal framework. Yes, you could certainly take it up and put it down, maybe put it behind your house or something. It could be a solution, maybe if it's a scheme of it. You can pick up all 100 of them and go. But I think it would take a little bit more research for me to say, yes, it's a solution, or no, it can't be a solution, or can it be permanently planted somewhere and then it would be considered to be part of this particular lot. I really don't know. I don't know how the title of it would work.
Right.
So for me, as I say, I didn't know about that until I had a conversation with a colleague, and I think those are really good points. So yes, the finish is great. Yes, the price is great, but I don't know legally how it works. Maybe it does work, but I would just have to do a little bit more research in and around it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. I do want to, you told us a little bit about like what you're seeing in Kingston and trends in the next 5 to 10 years over there. But what do you think about Negril and you've obviously spent some time here with us, and what do you think about its future and also its potential? And we know there's a lot of big things coming this side of the island into our neighborhood here that we're all very excited about. But I would love to hear from your professional perspective. Yeah,
I need to spend more time in Negril, but let me tell you, I really love coming through Negril and other sort of areas outside of Kingston, because it's always good to see how the town develops. In Kingston, it's almost like you were born in the middle of a town that was just already there.
Right.
Whenever I drive through Negril and other areas, it's almost like I'm seeing a place in transition. It's good to sort of see, like, I come one month and something is there. I come 3 months down the road and something else is happening. But it still maintains this. And you know what? I think I'm going to just divert a little bit. It is a conversation that I myself have been having in my mind as to what Jamaica ought to be and ought to look like. My wife loves the vernacular look. She loves the trees and the idea of it being the tropics. And to be honest, I love it too. I love to get away, go to Portland, and really observe and feel nature. So in my mind, I'm always in between two minds. You would hear me say, I am for densification, I'm for these high rise. Maybe I'm an urban style architect, I don't know, but I really appreciate what I'm seeing. So for Negril and those areas, it would be great to see it develop in a way that maintains its natural identity. And at the same time, take advantage of all the new technologies and things that are coming along. Because the fact of the matter is, persons want to come in, persons want to invest, and you have to bring the investment in. So it'd be great to see what that master plan could look like. It'd be fantastic that the beach is maintained. You have these really, as a driver around, you have these really nice little houses. Some of them are some really wonderful little cottages. You want to sort of maintain those because it's just fantastic to drive around and look at. And when you stay at some of these hotels, you really get to experience the natural rock, the natural sunshine, the natural foliage, and it'd be great to see those things really maintained. Like, you don't really want to see it overwhelmed with a lot of concrete, right? So in my mind, I would love to see the development done in a way that preserves the identity of Negril. So when you're walking on the strip, you still feel like, you've gotten away from a big city. You're walking and you're enjoying this entity that does really is a identity in and of itself. So I'm hoping that the development is able to keep the identity of Negril.
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100%. And when we were having our conversation about the infrastructure in Kingston and specifically the traffic, I think of Negril and for us to learn from Kingston's mistake and not make the same mistake in the same country, because we are, and I said this about 3 years ago, we're starting to see a rush hour in Negril, which is funny to even say, but you're like, and you see it every year just getting a little bit more dense and more cars, where like it's backed up to sometimes even past here travelers going downtown. And that's about 400 meters down to the roundabout, maybe a little bit more, I call it 600. And you're just like, man, this never used to be like that. And so you're just seeing like a population increase and more cars on the road. And these are the things that we need to think about as a community. Like, how do we subvert this and make sure that we don't want people just sitting here in traffic, and how do we make it more like Medellin and have people more walking around and make it more pedestrian friendly?
Yeah, I think it's just, the research. We'll have to do the research, and Medellin did it, and they did it in a really wonderful way. I think we have to borrow from them. Why it worked for them? I mean, obviously every country is different. The mindset of people are a little bit different, but there must be something that we can borrow.
Yes.
From them. How did they do it, and how can we take it and utilize it for us?
Yes, absolutely. I do want to talk about like projects that you're working on. Sure. Anything that you would be willing to share with us? I know you got some big things happening in the background that are probably not so public right now. But we'd just love to hear about some of the cool things that you're working on. Anything you'd like to share with us?
Right. So there's some big projects I'm working on. Some of them I can't disclose right now because of NDA. But what I will say is, I'll touch on some of the ones that I can touch on, and then I'll give you a sort of tidbit of things that I'm working on. I'm trying to expand out of Jamaica as well. So I'm looking at doing projects in the wider Caribbean. I'm doing some project management in Dominica right now. So there's a construction project, a really wonderful project in Dominica, where the Tainos, they still have Tainos. Jamaica had Tainos and Arawaks.
They still have Tainos there?
Yes,
oh, wow.
And we're doing
amazing.
A resource center in Dominica. So I've partnered with another company called Oyo Construction, and Virtuous Architect is doing the project management on that. And it's a really wonderful project. And it's just started maybe 3 months now, and we're looking, we're just working. We meet on it pretty much every day. Every morning we sit and we meet on it via Zoom. Technology is wonderful these days, and we meet on it every morning, and we're just trying to push that project along. So that's going to be a resource center that is dedicated to the Tainos in Dominica. So that's really wonderful. I'm also looking at St. Vincent. There's some projects there that I've been trying to get into. So we'll keep that one and see where it goes, but I'm trying to expand into the wider Caribbean to see what are the opportunities there that architectural firms such as mine, and also the new project management arm that we're doing, can also take advantage of. Because we've seen so many projects and some of the deficiencies in executing projects, we realize, well, this is needed, that is needed in order to ensure that the project goes along smoothly. So the new project management arm that we've started is geared towards helping projects to execute from start to finish in a really good way. in Jamaica, as you know, we do have quite a bit of projects. We're trying to expand out of Kingston as well. So we used to have a lot of signs all up in Kingston, but we've been looking at a lot of other projects elsewhere. So we have maybe three projects in Montego Bay, another one to start soon. We have one project in Trelawney, one in Negril, one in Hanover. Some of these are getting ready to start. Some are just in the approval process. But all of the projects are multifamily residential, and a couple of them are mixed use commercial. So those are wonderful. So in Kingston, we're doing a high rise building now. That's going up, called the Halo. That's a really wonderful project, and that's when that is complete, it's gonna have a really good look on the landscape. With that project, what we try to do with it is, we're quite modern in our aesthetic look, but what we try to do is, as always, Virtuoso Architect will love to sort of utilize sort of a traditional concept in materiality. So your jalousie windows, we might replace that with some louver screens, and your veranda, we might replace that with a 7-story balcony that is really a play area or amenity area. So that project will utilize a lot of those sort of traditional elements in a modern way. We are completing Spyglass. That is a project that has been going on through COVID. And really wonderful project, fantastic. Yes, it sits on the hill, and you get a wonderful vista of Kingston. And we've getting a lot of buzz on that project. So that's a really wonderful project that should be coming to a close and coming to completion this year. It has been extended. A lot of the slow pace has been through COVID, but we just keep pace with that, and really wonderful project. And we're doing another project I won't disclose too much on this one, but it's a extremely large project. The first stage of submissions have gone in, and it's really it's almost like developing a little town in a sense. So we're developing apartment buildings, we're developing single family houses, we're developing a commercial district as well. So when we get a little bit further, you'll be seeing it coming out. But the team has been working very hard to get a lot of these projects off the ground, and get new projects moving to the wider Caribbean, and just keep our projects going. So we do specialize in a lot of multifamily, a lot of high rise, and master planning is really where I want to take it next. Developing like town areas and what that can look like. Give me my wide sidewalks now, and my trees and all of that. So those are things that we're working on, and we're all over Jamaica. So we used to be concentrated in Kingston for the most part, but we've done a lot of projects as well. We did the Draxall Mall. We did 2 other projects, just maybe a couple lots down. One of them now just opened. That's where the new Encore is, and then the one pretty much right beside it. So we did all of those projects. Trelawney, we're working on a multifamily residential project, which is more. It's actually more villas. So it's not even townhouses or duplexes. It's single family villas on about 5 acres of property, and we're looking to do a phase 2. So that project has started. We're just doing the model unit now, and it will pick up some steam come the next couple of months. Once everything is signed and sealed, then that project will be moving along with some pace and something like that. It's gonna be a really nice project. It's a lot of fresh air out there. You're not standing on a tall building. These buildings are 2 stories high. So I know persons are used to Virtuoso doing 10-story, 12-story, and all of these things, but this one is a really quaint sort of design, and yes, modern, but really fantastic project. And we just keep it going.
No, that sounds really, really exciting. I'm very excited for you and your company, and congratulations on all of these projects that you're working on. But it also speaks to the bigger picture of what's happening in Jamaica, and Jamaica is very, very hot right now. And it's been maintaining its hotness for quite a number of years. And it's just good to sit down with somebody like yourself, who is like literally boots on the ground, tip of the spear, and in the trenches of moving this real estate industry forward, at the highest level. And it's so great that we're hearing from the horse's mouth, and the audience is hearing it as well, and knowing that there are very, very exciting things happening in Jamaica, not just what they are seeing in the headlines, but there are professionals and people just like yourself who are pushing forward very, very great projects that you'll hear about soon, and you're gonna be like, oh my God, I didn't know Jamaica was doing something like that. And so I appreciate you sharing all of that with us. And if people want to reach out to you and work with you and see some of the stuff that you are working on and that you have done, how can they find you and reach out to you?
Oh man, easy. So if it's Virtuoso Architect, Virtuoso Architect Limited, the website is virtuosoarchitect.co. The email address is architect.virtuoso@gmail.com. They can even contact me on my cell number, that's 371-7560. So they can reach me via WhatsApp on that number.
Okay. Get ready for your phone to be blown up. I'll tell you that right now. Because I know I could tell you, even the two projects that you alluded to that are coming in that mid-tier area, people are going to ask you about that right away.
Definitely. I think they're sold out already.
Okay, well, there you go.
But I'll find out from the developer if there's any units left. But,
okay.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, all right. Awesome. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time, Hugo. I know I learned a lot, and there's so much more to come, and you've gotten me even more excited about Jamaica and the future of what's to come.
Okay, great, man. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. And thank you all out there for joining us, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.